This isn't an animal. This isn't a predator. This is a monster. A dangerous creature that lives deep in the forest. It fascinates me greatly. I watch it constantly. I'm always on its trail. 11,000 years ago, it ruled every forest on this continent. And tonight, it still does. And tonight, as she lifts her head towards the east, it meets the darkness as if it were a language she knew by birth. There is something almost unbearable in her indifference. It reminds us that possessing it was never truly ours. It does not hunt for sport. It does not hunt for territory. It hunts because it was built for nothing else. Now it moves through the bushes without hesitation, without doubt, harsh and relentless, like water flowing downhill, fearlessly defying everything in the depths of the forest. Another scent on the wind, another reason to be more certain, more complete, just as it already is. Nothing in this forest challenges it. Nothing, except one. The wolf lowers its head, not in submission, absolutely not. Its eyes don't blink. Its weight shifts almost imperceptibly to its hind legs, as if revealing the details of the fight about to begin. The bear stares at the wolf, angry and furious. The forest holds its breath.
I have been hunting since I was 9 years old. I know patience, I know stillness, I know how to become part of a landscape until something forgets you exist. I spent 11 days in that forest before I made a single move. Every patrol route mapped, every feeding pattern noted, every weakness in its behavior cataloged. I'm going to tell you something that sounds arrogant, but it is simply accurate. I was always going to catch it. The hunter was about to become the hunted, and it had absolutely no idea. The engineering alone took 6 weeks. I consulted with people who trap large predators professionally. They all said the same thing. You cannot reliably trap something this intelligent using conventional methods. I disagreed. Steel cables buried under 6 inches of forest floor, a net rated to hold 12,000 pounds, trigger mechanism with a 3-millisecond response time. The trap had been set for 3 days. All it needed was patience. And patience is the one thing I always had in abundance. One tranquilizer dart. I raised the gun, breathing controlled. But when the dart hit, I watched it fall, when those amber eyes finally closed, I felt something I did not expect. Not triumph. Something closer to guilt, and something even closer to awe. The most powerful thing I had ever encountered, reduced to stillness by a single needle. For now. Only for now.
I'd been planning this for 18 months. The cost of the fence was far more than I anticipated. 3 acres of reinforced steel, 14 motion sensors, 12-foot-high barriers embedded 4 feet into the bedrock. I was proud of this fence. I want you to remember that I was proud, because by day 4, I wasn't proud anymore. I was just hoping it would hold up. The simulation was about to begin, and I had no idea what I was going to face. This, day 1.
It weighed 150 pounds. I've been asked many times since this simulation ended whether I was afraid. The honest answer is yes. Every single day. Fear is not weakness. Fear is information. I used every piece of it. 30 days, it lived in my backyard. Row.
The direwolf. Aenocyon dirus. 150 pounds. Jaw pressure 4 times that of a modern wolf. Estimated top speed, 35 miles per hour. It went extinct 11,000 years ago. Not because it was weak, because its prey disappeared first. The predator outlasted everything, until there was nothing left to hunt. I gave it something to hunt again.
How big was it? How fast? How did it hunt? Nobody asks the question that actually matters. What would it be like to exist alongside one? Exist alongside it, in the same space, under the same sky, for 30 consecutive days. A real dire wolf, as close to its natural state as I could replicate, living in proximity to a human being. I ran the simulation. I took every precaution I knew how to take. And I will tell you right now, nothing went the way I expected. I remember standing at the monitor on day 1 and thinking, I am ready for this. 6 hours after arrival, it had found every camera, tested the gate, and had not eaten once. Not because it was not hungry, because eating was not the priority. Understanding the new environment was. Day 1. I expected adjustment behavior, some stress, some disorientation, a period of settling. What I got instead was 14 consecutive laps of the full perimeter. That is over 6 miles of continuous movement in under 3 hours. On the first day in an unfamiliar enclosure, no panic in the movement, deliberate. I've studied predator captivity behavior for years. I've never seen anything like this. I sat at the monitor and wrote one line in my notes that night. This is not going to be a normal simulation. Day 2. I placed 11 cameras in that enclosure, some obvious, some deliberately concealed. I was genuinely curious whether it would find them. By 4 a.m., before the sun had risen on the second day, it had found every single one. And here is what made my blood run cold. I stared into each camera for exactly 30 seconds. But sitting in that control room watching it systematically locate and examine every lens, I was frightened, not of what it might do, but of how it was thinking. Day 3. I have seen large predators feed before. There is a quality to the way this animal eats that I do not have adequate language for. It is not hunger, it is not aggression. 4 minutes and 12 seconds. The deer was completely gone in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. And then, and this is the part that stayed with me, it sat down calmly, cleaned its paws with the same methodical precision it applied to everything else, and went straight back to patrolling the perimeter. Something I noticed from the very first day. It never made noise without reason. This animal made none of those unless they served a specific purpose. I know how to read animal behavior. I have never tracked anything that made me feel, with complete certainty, that it was simultaneously tracking me back. This was not an animal acting on instinct, and I realized, going back through the earliest footage, that I had been on its map from the very first hour I set foot on that land. 3 days in, I was checking the monitors every 45 minutes. It added 3 additional cameras to blind spots I had not previously considered. It had mapped every lens, refused food until it was ready, eaten with a precision that I found genuinely frightening, and slept for a total of 40 minutes across 72 hours, and always being 3 steps ahead. By day 3, I was not 3 steps ahead. I was outside the enclosure. A sound like a vehicle collision at high speed. The ground actually shook under my feet. I ran to the nearest monitor, and I looked at the gate. The gate I had spent 6 weeks on. The gate I had patrolled on the standard vehicle, and it was bent inward. And then I wrote in my notes, reinforced everything. Day 4. My first reaction was fear. My second reaction was something close to admiration. Because watching the footage back in slow motion would look like a rage attack was actually something far more calculated. It was not aggression. It hit the gate once, assessed the result, and then spent the next 48 hours systematically testing every single structural point in the enclosure. It found 3 weak points. I found out which 3 when I reviewed the stress sensor data the next morning. I reinforced all of them before sunrise. Day 7. I threw that meat over the fence, not out of kindness, strategy. It approached slowly, picked it up without breaking pace, and for the entire duration of eating, it never broke eye contact with me. Every chew, every swallow, amber eyes, unblinking. That was the first time I had to actively work to hold my ground. When it finished, it walked away without looking back. The transaction concluded entirely on its terms. Day 10. I want to be honest about the decision to go in, not the heroic version. My heart rate was 112 before I touched the gate. I had the research, the gear, the rehearsed exit protocol. None of it helped the way I thought it would. The moment that gate closed behind me, everything I had prepared dissolved into one very simple, very ancient piece of information. I am prey. It could end this in under 10 seconds. It knew it. The only question still open was whether it would. 6 minutes. I know exactly how long because counting was the only thing I could control. And then, mid-stride, no warning, it stopped, sat down, and faced me directly. The directness was almost worse than the circling. At least during the circling, I could track where it was. I held that gaze for 4 minutes. They are some of the hardest 4 minutes I have ever spent. Neither of us moved, and I still do not entirely know what was decided in that silence. I left the enclosure after 11 minutes, sat down, did not speak for 20 minutes. Both of us were alive. That was the objective, and the objective was met. But I did not feel victorious walking out. I felt like I had been shown something. Whatever happened in those 11 minutes, it was not domestication, not trust, not the beginning of any relationship I have a name for. It was something that predators understood before humans invented words, something that passed between two things that recognized each other as dangerous. I still do not have a word for it. I am not sure when it is. Day 15. There is a difference between cold fear and the other kind. The kind that bypasses everything you have built and goes straight to something animal. At 2 a.m., all 14 motion sensors triggered simultaneously. And the moment I looked at the feed, before I had processed what I was seeing, I knew something was wrong. Not I just knew. Whatever had triggered it, the wolf had already found it, and it was not patrolling anymore. A deer, panicking, had pushed through the secondary fencing and was now trapped in the buffer zone. The 12-foot margin between me and the wolf. The wolf registered the intruder in under 4 seconds. I watched it lock on through the monitor. The gate was already flexing from the first impact before I had fully processed what I was seeing. I had 30 seconds to reach the manual override. I am not someone who panics. I am trained specifically not to panic. I panicked. That gate was designed to withstand 12,000 pounds of static pressure. It was repeated high-velocity impact from an animal that had been studying its weak points for 11 days. The bolts I had reinforced twice were strained invisible. The frame was flexing 3 inches in each direction. I could not manage what I felt in those 15 seconds. The wolf was not slowing down. If anything, the footage confirms this. It was accelerating. The gate held. I have looked at the stress analysis since then. I know the margins. I have chosen not to share the exact numbers. They concern me, and I built that gate. I sat on the ground for 10 minutes. Processing. There is a version of this story where I tell you I was calm. That is not the true version. In 15 days, I had been studying this animal, analyzing it, treating it as a subject. In those 15 seconds, it stopped being a subject. A living thing that wanted out of where I had put it. After the incident, I sat with the shutdown switch for 20 minutes, and then I reviewed the footage. I watched the wolf, at maximum agitation, with live prey accessible through a compromised barrier, choose to retreat. Not because it could not push further, because it chose not to, and it had retreated. Something in that animal made a choice I could not explain. I needed to understand what that choice was. That is why I did not stop. Day 20. I was at my usual observation point when it changed direction and walked toward me. And it studied me. The same focused attention it had applied to the cameras, the gate, the enclosure structure, now applied to me, controlled my breathing. I've spoken to behavioral researchers since this ended. Something was concluded, and whatever was concluded, the behavior toward me changed after that day. Day 25. I want to be careful about how I describe this. I do not want to over-romanticize it. I extended my hand, flat palm. I'd made this gesture 6 times across 5 days. 6 times it had walked away. On the 7th, it did not. It approached, lowered its head, and made contact. 2 seconds. I'm not going to call it trust, but in 28 days of trying to understand the line between what is wild and what is tamed, those 2 seconds were the closest I came to the answer. Day 28. The last day. I started packing up the monitoring equipment at dawn. I expected it to ignore me. Instead, it stood at the exact center of the enclosure and watched me. Every box I packed, every cable I disconnected, the same focus it had given the cameras on day 2. I found myself moving slower than I needed to, taking longer than necessary. The simulation was ending, but whatever this had become, that was not. So, could you have a dire wolf as a pet? I am the most qualified person alive to answer that question. The answer is no. Not from caution, not from ethics. From 28 days of direct experience with what this animal is. It is not built for fences or schedules or the 21st century. It is built for a world that stopped existing 11,000 years ago. Trying to contain it is not ownership. The wall held. But make no mistake, the wall was never the point. Those 28 days gave me something I cannot give back and would not trade. An understanding of what it means to stand in the presence of something that is not afraid of you, that has never been afraid of anything, and to hold your ground anyway. I came here as a hunter with a methodology and a plan. One gate that held. 2 seconds of contact I will carry the rest of my life. The simulation is over. Next time, I go bigger, much bigger. You have been warned.